Well, hi there, neighbors. I'm real glad y'all stopped by today. You know, sometimes the world gets big and noisy and plain old confusing, especially around the holidays. And that's why it can feel mighty nice to just take a breath, settle on down, and listen to a story about where one of our oldest traditions came from. Now, this here story is one a lot of folks used to grow up hearing. It's simple, kind, friendly. The kind of tale you'd find in an old picture book. Bright colors, smiling faces, maybe even a warm pumpkin pie cooling by an open window. But is it the whole story? Well, no, sugar. Not by a long shot. But today, we're going to tell it the way it was, lovingly, if imperfectly, passed down for generations. So let's open up that storybook, turn that first page nice and slow, and step into a real old American autumn. A long, long time ago, way before televisions, telephones, or even a paved road, a little wooden ship called the Mayflower set off across a mighty wide ocean. Inside were families hoping for something they just couldn't find back home. They were looking for a place where they could belong. Now that trip was cold, cramped, and probably made more than a few folks seasick. But all along the way, they kept telling one another hopeful little stories about starting over, gardens and fresh air, and a tomorrow they could build with their own hands. And one morning, after weeks on the waves, they finally spotted land. A rocky shoal. Forests wearing their autumn best. Bright reds, gorgeous golds, and oranges glowing in the sun. This is where we'll begin again, they said. And everyone tried real hard to picture what that new beginning might look like.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this broadcast with a breaking development from New York City. The date, November 24th, 1966, Thanksgiving Day. An unexpected environmental emergency is unfolding at this very moment across the 5 boroughs. Reports are arriving by the minute of rapidly intensifying smog settling over the city. Just 1 hour ago, skies were milly gray. Now, witnesses describe visibility dropping to mere yards, street lamps glowing like burned halos, and the parade spectators shielding their faces as the haze thickens. Hospitals are already overcrowded, taking in residents suffering sudden respiratory distress, coughing fits, and dizziness. Ambulances are struggling to navigate the streets through the dim, polluted air. Some officials are advising citizens to remain indoors, though no directives have yet been issued. Yes, scientists contacted suggest that this may be the result of temperature inversion, an atmospheric condition trapping pollutants close to the ground. I'm hearing that power plants, factories, and heavy holiday traffic appear to be feeding what is becoming an unprecedented public health crisis. Yes, city authorities are gathering for an emergency session as we speak, though next course of action remains unclear. We'll continue to provide updates as this situation evolves. If you're just joining us, New York City is currently enveloped in a dense, hazardous fog unlike anything seen. On a Thanksgiving holiday.
Now, even though the pilgrims felt like they found a brand new world, this land wasn't empty. Not even close. Tall trees whispered to the wind. Rivers glittered like silver threads. And native people, including the Wampanoag, had been living, laughing, working, and tending this land for longer than any of us could truly understand. They had families and stories, skills and knowledge, all shaped by the rhythm of the seasons. And when these new strangers showed up, well, the Wampanoag watched them with curiosity. and maybe a little concerned too. New neighbors can change a lot of things. But these were folks who understood hospitality. These were folks that understood the land and understood that helping somebody when the time was right. The Pilgrims quickly learned that beginning again ain't always easy. Winters cut deep, food was scarce, illnesses spread quicker than gossip in a small town. But the old story, the gentle one we tellin' today, reminds us that kindness can show up right when one needs it most. One spring, a Wampanoag man named Tisquantum, or Squanto, like many folks learned, visited the struggling newcomers. In the picture book version, he's almost like a friendly guide, showing them how to fish, how to plant their corn, how to read the land that they landed on. Now, whether the details of that tale match up exactly to how it worked is a whole different matter. But the heart of the tale is simple. Kindness can carry folks through mighty hard times. And thanks to that help, the Pilgrims made it through their first full year, watched the crops rise, and felt hope settle back into their bones and heart.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We break your regularly scheduled holiday broadcast with a grave report from the modern year 2009. This, on the night November 26th, the Thanksgiving holiday. Authorities in Jupiter, Florida, tell us that a family celebration has been shattered by a dreadful act of violence. At approximately 10 o'clock this evening, Paul Michael Minga, age 25, openly fired at a gathering of more than a dozen relatives assembled for the holiday meal. Officials on the scene confirm 4 persons dead. Among them, the twin sister, aunt, and a young child. Merely 6 years of age. Another family member remains in critical condition and physicians labor through the night. Investigators state that the attack appears deliberate, the suspect having grievances for many years. Minga has since fled the residence and is presently the target of an active manhunt. Citizens are urged to maintain vigilance, remain indoors, and notify authorities when sighted. We shall continue to follow this grim tale after the year 2009 as further details emerge.
When autumn rode around again, crisp air, crunching leaves, the smell of wood smoke drifting through the trees, the Pilgrims decided it was time to celebrate the bounty. They gathered corn, squash, beans. They cooked stews and baked fresh bread and roasted meats over open flames. And in this bright and gentle telling that we telling here today, they invited their Wampanoag neighbors to come and join them. Picture it the way the old textbooks do. Long wooden tables, dishes passed hand to hand, children racing through the smoky twilight, and laughter floating up to the trees. 2 communities sharing food and fellowship beside a warm fire. The story says that the feast lasted 3 whole days. Eating, playing games, giving thanks. Thankful for the harvest, thankful for survival, and thankful for the hope of new friendship. Now today, we do know that history is a lot more tangled and a lot more complicated than this here sweet tale. They was struggles, they was conflicts, heartbreaks even that followed. But the version we telling here today, the one folks used to in classrooms, holiday pageants, it wasn't meant to dwell on that pain. It was meant to show the children a symbol, a moment, even a small one, of people helping people. A picture of cooperation, a gentle scene to teach the idea that we might someday live that way all the time. And sometimes, symbols, well, they help us imagine the world we want, even if they ain't a perfect picture of the world we had.
We interrupt with urgent dispatches from November 26, 1942, this Thanksgiving Day in Phoenix, Arizona. Reports are reaching our noise room that a violent confrontation has erupted between black servicemen of the United States Army's 364th Infantry Regiment and both military and civilian police. The disturbance is said to have begun in a modest bus stop in the early hours before swiftly widening into a street-level firefight involving dozens of men. Authorities now confirm 3 fatalities and numerous wounded as the situation continued to unfold. Local commanders attribute the volatility of the long-standing racial tensions surrounding the regiment's presence in the city. More than 150 soldiers have been detained in the military police's attempt to reestablish order. Additional troops have now been deployed, and a mandatory curfew will be declared for the downtown district. Residents of Phoenix on this Thanksgiving Day are strongly advised to remain in their homes as officials announce the all clear. We will continue to provide coverage of this grave situation from November 1942 in our time-spending correspondence.
As the years rolled on, families across America created traditions of their own. Tables filled with roast turkey, mashed potatoes, pies cooling on a counter. Oh, bright cranberry sauce that jiggles just a little too much. Folks traveled long distances just to sit together and have a moment of grace, a moment of gratitude, a moment of being glad for one another. Thanksgiving turned into a holiday about pausing, breathing, and telling the people around y'all, hey, I'm thankful y'all here. Even when the world outside gets loud or rushed or divided, this one day invites folks to slow down and remember what binds us together.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now take you across the centuries to the colonial year 1637. This report, dated May 26, from the region now known as Connecticut. At first light this morning, English colonial troops, alongside Allied native forces, mounted a full assault upon a fortified Pequot settlement near the Mystic River. Eyewitness accounts relayed through our historical correspondents describe a village encircled as the dwelling set ablaze and its inhabitants, men, women, and children alike, cut down as their attempted escape. The casualty numbers are staggering, estimated between 500 and 700 lives lost in the span of mere hours. Colonial leaders are proclaiming a decisive victory in the Pequot War and have issued what they are calling a formal Day of Thanksgiving in recognition for what they deem divine favor. Critics in the neighboring tribes warn that the violence will ignite further broader conflict across New England. This long shadow of this day is expected to shape relations between settlers and native nations for years to come. We will continue to transmit updates from the year 1637 as our temporal monitors gather further details.
So that's the old story, friends. The soft, shiny version told in children's books and school plays. A story about a feast, a friendship, a moment of gratitude painted in warm, simple colors. And whether or not every bit of it happened exactly that way, there's still that nice, cute little idea tucked inside of it. That people from different places, different worlds, can sometimes find a moment of understanding, a moment of generosity, a moment of grace. And as we close that book today, maybe take a second look at your own table, your own people, and the kindness y'all can offer each other. Because sometimes the smallest bit of goodwill can make the whole season shine just a little bit brighter. Now, y'all be good, you hear?